Hey, okay, so yeah, I'm probably going to scuttle everything Emily just said about how this talk is going to go. First of all, I'd love to know who I'm talking to. How many people here, whether or not you call yourself an artist, are interested in making art or do make art? A little show of hands? Yeah, okay, so I'm talking to people who use up art supplies. Yeah. Sometimes that feels like the safest thing to say about what I do because I want to stay free. And it's so easy to become unfree in making art. And I have to tell you, that does not go away the further along you go in your art career, or at least it hasn't for me. It's always been something I've needed to reevaluate from time to time, and the way to reevaluate it is if I'm feeling uncomfortable, if I'm feeling discomfort in my art practice. Then it's time to say, wait, how am I creating this? Why am I creating this? What have I come to feel is at stake for me in this simple act of walking up to a piece of fabric, stretched over some wood with some bristles attached to a stick, and going like this? How did I make that into something that actually has become maybe scary or high risk? And then I've got to take that apart and get back to doing what I want to do. I did write an artist statement. I think I got it to Emily, I don't know if it was last night or this morning. I've been busy. In Louisville, I run a gallery, and I put up a show last night and today. And during the pandemic really affected me. You can probably tell because you're standing in a room of paintings about nature that I painted. I sort of started landscape work before the pandemic hit, but once the pandemic rolled over and through my life, there was no other topic than nature. And so you're kind of surrounded by me working with the topic of nature in all these different directions. But anyway, one of the ways the pandemic affected me is I got really energized to do something. And so, yeah, I opened a second gallery, which I'm now really enjoying the problems I've created for myself, the creative problems I've created for myself. And getting back, I'm circling around back to the topic of artistic or creative freedom. One of the things that's happened for me in opening up a second art space and all the other stuff I have going on, activism, I teach meditation, and that's also really taken off. All these different things that I do now mean that my painting time is me time. Okay, I do so much stuff with and for other people, and I love it, and I wanted to do it, and be very intentional on my part. And so now those hours I get in the studio, it's like I'm free to just do what I want because I have to have that time that is focused on me. And that has been probably the number one thing that has clarified and maybe even refined my creative process with these paintings. And I'll see if I can think through like one of them a little bit, how it happens. But my process on these paintings is very much, I start with a toned canvas. Some of these are painted on black, some on purple, some on red. Well, purple and red, I think, is what we're mostly looking at. Although a few of them, I had 2 or 3 colors going on the first layer. And then I've got this big canvas that's just color. And I kind of walk up to it and it's like, what do I see on this canvas today? And I paint that one thing. And then that's it for the day. I'm not planning out the rest of the painting because I know I'm going to show up the next day or the next time I can get some painting time, and I'm going to want to be free to paint whatever comes next then. So these paintings are actually built up element by element, symbol by symbol, narratively. I kind of don't know where the story is going to go. And they take so long to paint, most of them. The 5x4s, the 4x5s, those are typically 3 to 4 months of my life in one of those. Okay, and yes, if I was a little bit better at protecting my painting time, they would happen a little bit faster, but not much. And that just is what it is. But if I'm going to work at painting for that long, there's no way I can script that painting from the how the work is supposed to be, become a real, I can hardly, well, I don't even want to make the brush go. So basically my narrative thing is to go one symbol at a time, and let the story, what happens next? What happens next? So if I was a novelist, I would be a pantser, a seat of the pantser, somebody who does not outline their novel, but just sits down at the typewriter and lets it rip. Well, that's very much my style with these paintings, and I figured out that's what gives me what I need from my painting practice. About the me time, I'm at a place right now where my painting practice needs to take care of me, and that's kind of weird because in the past there was more room in my head to think about, well, what does the world need from art, or how do I need to create work that will connect with audience? And boy, has that changed. And I think the pandemic kind of is what finally shut that down. But now, I go into the studio and it's really about what do I need to see happen next. And I do guess I have some trust at this point that if I paint whatever it is I need from a painting, it will land for someone. Like, there'll probably be one other person in this whole wide world who's like, yes. And that imaginary person is all I need. Okay, and they can stay imaginary too. I'm not even sweating it. I guess that's a build confidence over time of doing what I do and pushing it out before the public, be that online or by physically showing the painting objects. But somehow those issues of audience are just not present anymore in my practice. So, okay, now where they are present is when I edit work to hang a show. And my mother actually is Garner, I'm a second-generation artist, and she's here today. And I'm still a little shaky because she and my father, their house got hit by an F2 tornado 2 days ago, and until I walked in this building and saw them here, I hadn't seen them since the tornado because the big trees went down over their driveway. It wasn't even like I could rush to them. You couldn't get up to where they live, and they've been texting me photos of the damage and the devastation, and they're okay. But talk about doubling down on this theme of nature, and nature being big and scary and bigger than us, and we all kind of found that out in the pandemic. But yeah, it's back in the butterflies are back. And what was I saying? Okay, editing a body of work for a show or thinking about a show, that is where considerations of audience come in. So it's like my painting is my me time. I'm doing these paintings, bit by bit, symbol by symbol, depending on what I need that day, what I need the story to do. And then when it's time to show, then it's all about venue, audience, what's the light going to be like? What's the room going to be like? Who's going to come see it? And what might they want? And that's when my community-oriented, people-oriented, service-oriented hat comes on. And my mother asked me, I said, is there anything you want me to be sure to talk about today? And I think the question she was formulating, who got interrupted, was, how many paintings did you have to paint to come up with this body of work? And, okay, I will say that I dropped out 2 simply for space. It would have been a jammed-up, overcrowded show if I'd included them, but in terms of content and everything about them, they would have fit in just great. And it hurt a little to drop them out, but on the other hand, y'all didn't need to see 2 more paintings. This is enough to keep you busy. So that was that. I also dropped out all the work with human figures. And for this particular series, there weren't a lot of people in it, but that was, I think, 2 paintings that I dropped out for that. So I guess all told, I dropped out 4 of this potential body of work. I would say about 4 from this series had sold and gone on to where I did not want to, there was no need, or I did not need to borrow them back for the show. So that's 14 plus 4 plus, so 22 paintings maybe to get to what you see here. Okay? And I did make the decision, let's see, a few years back, as I was getting to know more artists of the generation older than me, and getting to know their storage problems, and getting to know, what do you do with this immense body of work that you've been building over time, and what do I do in my attic, with my basement, with my storage unit full of art, really working with some artists of that generation. I made the decision for myself to deliberately paint bigger and slower. So that's how I ended up doing these big pieces that take 3 to 4 months. I chose to do layered, narratively dense, maximalist work that would give me a way to really be at the same canvas for a long time, to slow myself down. This is the opposite of what I did as a young artist, where my goal was, can I do 50 to 100 paintings a year? Why? Because I'm trying to get good. Okay, and when I was a young artist, I would say only 50% of the work I did, even after I was showing and selling, really made the cut. In other words, to get 15 really strong paintings to show, I need to paint 30. In those early years, some of those 15 that got cut and destroyed or painted over entirely, now I kind of wince, because as my skills developed as an artist, now I can go back into an old painting that wasn't working then. I can see what wasn't working, and I can just go at it fresh and go back into the story and really work with it. So I didn't need to destroy some of the work I destroyed, but basically now I'm better at saving paintings, I think. And so it's really rare, thankfully, now that I give up on a painting. I've got 2 sitting in the corner of my studio right now that I haven't figured out what to do about, but I haven't given up on them, and I will eventually figure it out. All right. Okay, questions or comments? And you don't, if you have a comment, you don't have to make it into a question. You can leave it in comment form, and we can just kind of converse. That would be great. I'd love to hear what you're interested in.
Your imagery is absolutely amazing.
Can you put this up to your nose so people can hear you? Okay, all right.
Your imagery is amazing. I think I have an idea now where it comes from. It's fantastic. Thank you.
Thank you. I think getting free with the imagery. I think I have to work at it. The thing that most oppresses me lately are the rules of a landscape. Gravity. That really is messing with me. And at the same time, somebody asked me about Chagall earlier. What painter, how can you not love Chagall? Chagall's not an influence. I don't want to go full flying cows, but I really want to be able to disrupt this idea of what a landscape needs to be. And so my maximal disruption was this piece right here, if I can. This piece, you can hang it any side up. And so I have 3 different chairs, like 3 different points of view, and depending on how you rotate it when you look at it, it really changes the meaning. That's where I was really wrestling with this. I've got to get free of these landscape conventions that are pushing me down. Interestingly, though, that's the only, like the color is reasonably close to conventional for that. Like, all I did was mess with this orientation. I really like how it works, and there it is. Any other questions, comments, thoughts? If there's a painting you'd like to hear more about, otherwise, I don't know how long I've left. Are you timekeeping? No, you're good. Oh, okay, all right. If there's another one you're curious about, or any of them that you're curious about in particular, I could talk about them. Okay, the question is about the letters, the significance of the letters, and adding them, moment or the world or the experience of the painting, and working with or against my sort of preconceived ideas. Yeah, so letters are basically about words dissolving and falling off and sort of getting free so that I can do a painting and let the painting be what a painting can be. I mean, if I wanted to write, I could write. I do write for work quite a bit. Maybe that's really what it is that I've got both a painter and a writer living in here, and I'm negotiating space for both of them, and the letters are like, yeah, hang on, writer self, you can do your thing later. But I think in some places they function like a provocation. What are your words? What are your concepts? What's coming up for you? Holding up the mirror, getting the opportunity to, look at those letters and make your own words or make meanings or come up with your own stories. And it's like, I know you're doing that. That's what audiences do. That's what we do when we look at a painting is we have ideas about it. We make up our stories about what's going on. I think that in some ways the letters function as me saying, hey, I see you. You're doing the thing. And that's just fine. That's kind of how it works. Well, I will answer that question really differently tomorrow. In general, I don't spell out any words intentionally, but this is the one where I broke that guideline. I have A to Z, and I have Mu, which if you do Zen at all, Mu is a pretty important word in that tradition. It relates to an important koan. Does a dog have Buddha nature? Josu answered no. And Mu means no. In that translation, of course, Joshu also answered the question yes. So he had that question answered all kinds of ways. So that's a Zen reference. There are two Zen references I think here tonight that are really overt. I've got Buddha in a cave over here. And then I've got Moon over there. And then, otherwise, mostly not. I don't know, that's not true. I've got a house on fire. That's a really important Buddhist symbol in the sutra. So I don't know. I think there's a lot of Buddhism in here, more probably than I need to probably think about that. So, how did I do with it? Did I wrong and stop on your question? Okay. All right. Any other questions or comments?